What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Prairie Puck podcast. Today, we have a lot to go through with the Winnipeg Jets. This is recorded directly after their heartbreaker loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, where the Jets kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple times and didn't come out with the win that they probably should have. So I guess we'll start on that today. What was your guys' thoughts on this game? I'll toss it over to Jake first.
I want to forget about this game as quickly as possible. I feel like after I'm done talking about this, I'll never remember it again. So, final thoughts. It's one of those games that sucks even more than just because they lost, because they actually played well in this game. Like this, they were leading in this game, and yeah, you can make the argument about different plays and the defense and blah blah blah, but the Jets had this game, and just to piss it away the way they did it just sucks. Bad penalties and just inconsistent play. It just was not a good night. 0-2 the last couple games, and they've not been fun ones. So bad loss to Vegas, and penalties, man. Just play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That's exactly what happened tonight.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's funny because this is the first time they've lost with like a substantial amount of goals scored in their favor as well. Like, obviously, the last time they were in a kind of like, I want to see kind of more of like a gunfighter, like a really ugly type goal scoring game like this would have been back against LA, and they ended up scraping out a win with that one. It's tough because for me, like I didn't see the first two periods, so I came in the third period and I was just happy that we were there, obviously. But like, there's so many times where looking back, where you see the two polar opposites of the Jets playing, where their offense is like, yeah, no, we are really fucking good, and we are going to get points on all of our lines, and nothing to worry about. And then when and then other moments where our defense just goes, yep, this pairing sucks tonight, this pairing sucks on this shift, and this pairing sucks on this shift, and all three of those ended up with a puck in the back of the net.
Yep.
It's just, it's not something that you can have happen, and it's very rare that you actually end up having it where the offense shows up so significantly and the defense doesn't, but this was kind of a perfect storm for that tonight.
Yeah, no, you guys are totally right. Oh, hi, Carter. Oh, bye, Carter. I'll let that out after.
Keep that in.
Yeah, no, you guys are totally.
He's always here, people. He's always lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, I didn't get rid of Carter.
All right. Anyway, though, the Jets, now they lost two in a row. It's the first time they've lost two in a row in 7 weeks now. So obviously it's not ideal, but at the same time, that's a pretty nice stat. You've only lost two games in a row twice this season. The Jets are 18-9-1 currently through 28 games of the year. And right now, I think they're at a point where injuries are starting to pile it up.
Yep.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Saku Manalainen on IR. Logan Stanley is as well. Both are going to have to be reevaluated in a month. So that is not a good sign. One good thing that did come out of today, though, before we talk about how the teams played with injuries, is that Nikolai Ehlers was talked to after the game by Sarah Orlesky. They interviewed him, and they asked if he was going to be skating anytime soon, and he said very, very soon. So it seems like he may be back earlier than we expected. And the Jets could really use him right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see like what his timetable is, because obviously getting back on the ice is great, but you don't really know how active he's going to be on the ice, like with him returning. Also, too, like the way that they announced this was hilarious. Like,
yeah, it was. Typical Jets, like, man. I loved it.
Heartbreaking loss. And they're like, oh yeah, here, by the way, like it's almost like when a kid like drops his ice cream on the ground, and then so you go to get him a balloon. Like, it was like, oh, that was a rough game. But here's the Nikolai Ehlers. Yeah. Like, you love that, right?
That's exactly what it was. And to do it on a post-game show like that, it's just that like 10 people are watching.
But, like,
no, I mean...
Well, honestly, it's terrible. Like, it's funny. They played so good in spite of having Ehlers there. Despite not having Ehlers, which is really weird, because it makes me question how much what will change when he returns. And I don't want to say obviously I think it's better to have him on the roster than not to have him on the roster. It's just I'm curious to see how this will affect the chemistry in the locker room in terms of like on ice chemistry with line matching. Obviously his lack of being on that second line or that first line, depending on the night you're rolling them out, has been felt because usually they haven't really had a guy replace it heavily enough. Like you'll notice there's 5 offensive players that are doing really good, and then it drops a significant amount. But it'll be good to see either way how he affects that.
No, for sure. But I definitely think you're downgrading like the boost that Ehlers will have. But no, I think that he'll fit in really well. I think this team is the way that their offense is kind of structured, the way that they bring the puck in, the way that they pass the puck around, and how they're able to control the offensive zone at times. I think Ehlers can really flourish in the system, and I think we were seeing signs of that early on. I think that when he gets back, it's going to be like kind of an early trade deadline gift for the Jets. They're really going to get a boost, and I think that it's going to be exactly what they need. Like for me right now, these last 2 games just scream fatigue. I know the team's sick. I found that out after I made my video. I feel like we all did, thanks to the reports that came out from the locker room after. But no, I don't know. I just feel like this is just injury fatigue right now. You know, in the roster claim today, not the roster claim, the waiver claim today really kind of sends that message as well. You know that this team is hurt and they need some help right now, some desperate relief.
Mm-hmm. And to go with that, just quickly, just add one thing here on Ehlers. I do think that he'll fit into that top 6, no problem, depending on what they want to do with it. However they want to structure that. I think Mikey Eismont's played fine, but I think
Sure.
you know, a bottom 6 role would fit better for him. Like I know he's played great with Dubois and Connor and everything, but you know, in terms of actually pushing the needle of offense, I don't think he brings that level of a top 6 forward, but I think he'll be fine in the bottom 6. I don't think he's going to lose his job because of Nick Ehlers coming back. But with all of that said, the one thing that I've noticed this year with Rick Bowness that's really stood out to me is that he's actually capable of putting a lineup together, and he's not afraid to try new things. Yeah, in the bottom 6, it's kind of, you know, fight for your life. We've seen a lot of different guys get their shots this year. Axel Johnson, Fialbi, playing really good at the beginning, started to slow down, and now he's a healthy scratch. Kenny Stenlund got his first NHL game with the Jets, and he definitely took advantage of it. He got an assist, and yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. So I don't know. I'm just liking what Bonus is doing, and even if Ehlers kind of struggles out of the gate, I trust that Bonus will be able to find a role to get him, you know, back up to the Nick Ehlers that we're used to.
I totally agree. I really like what Rick Bowness. You know what else is just so refreshing to me is that, like, look at Kevin Stanley. He gets his first game, like you said, Jackson. And did you notice anything special about him tonight? Yeah, he was out there making basic plays and everything like that. But what I liked the most was the fact that the coaching staff used him 11 minutes tonight on the ice. If that was the Paul Maurice coaching staff back in the day, he would have been out there for maybe 3-4 minutes maximum. Like he really would have been on his first game, especially. He would have been invisible out there. He would have just been to fill the bench role. Tonight they brought him in and they used him, and it's been really refreshing to see because, you know, in the past, would you have expected guys like Axel Johnson, Fijalbi, Manalainen, you know, like the list goes on of guys that have, like, even Sam Gagner to an extent, like the guys that have come in and actually played for this club. Stenlund now adding to that. Almost every minor league signing that, you know, we ripped the Jets for back then for just being moose fodder type thing has actually made an impact so far to start this season. And, you know, it's really good to see. Like they've been really well equipped in the depth area, and I think that that's just one really underrated area of this team right now is how good and deep they really are, even with injuries right now.
Yeah, and I agree with that, especially too, and I think also too a big contributor to that too is it at the heart of the Winnipeg Jets in terms of depth. There's Adam Lowry. Adam Lowry run a bottom 6 any way he wants, and he has run it any way he wants. Adam Lowry's having a renaissance year for him right here. Last year he had 21 points. He's got 18 already, and the Jets haven't even played 30 games yet. He has had multiple pairings with guys all over the bottom 6, from Esimont, Harkins, Toninato, Fialbi, Barron, and he's been able to get the best out of them. Harkins looks like a solid fit on the third line, which is something we have not said in years.
No, Harkins finally looks like an NHLer. Like, it's crazy the difference that a coach makes like that. Like, he's an actual NHL player now. He's not just a fourth-line AHL guy.
Right. Saku Maenalainen is definitely a roster spot any game in the season, and has actually put up great points and showed great chemistry. Morgan Barron is going absolutely nowhere nowhere. He is staying put there, and that is a blessing to see. The guy is now on a 3-game point streak with Adam Lowry as well, and to have somebody that can actually finally complement Lowry properly, like we've seen in the past, is great to see.
No, for sure. I like the Chevy's the Chevy did some wizardry on that trade, I swear, with the cop deal. When you look back at it now, when you look at everything that we got in that, like, it is just insane.
Brad Lambert and Morgan Barron.
And Solmussen as well with that second round pick.
Elias Solomonsson is doing really good. He's hurt right now, but he up until he got hurt, he was playing really good hockey there in Sweden.
We're doing that trade is looking really good right now. Like I'm just gonna go like. It's looking like a Vander Kane 2.0 type deal. Not to the extent of how big it's going to be on the impact with how good these guys are, but just the value you get out of it and how long it's going to be affecting this team. Like, you're going to get Brad Lambert, you're going to get all these different elements going to eventually make their way to the Moose or the Jets, and it's going to be a trade that pays off in the future. Just got to give a shout out there because Barron's been killing it, and I was so happy with that deal last year. He's been a great fit ever since he got here. Moose, Jets, doesn't matter.
That is easily the Jets' best trade since coming from Atlanta. Easily, and you can throw Thrasher's history in that too if you really want to.
Honestly,
that is
definitely one of them.
Fantastic.
Chevy definitely held his cards to the right exact moment. The last like 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, that deal finally came through. Like, he did a great job.
Yeah, it was late in the day. Yeah,
very late. Me and Zach were fucking waiting all day for that cop news to break, and it happened in like the last hour.
It's funny too because that trade could have went so many different ways because at the time they had Kravitsov, which they didn't know about what was going. They had Lundqvist, and they had Barron, who wasn't totally on the radar at the time. So for the Jets to be able to properly find the right guy that fit into the spot that they wanted, which obviously wasn't a top 6 player, it was a bottom 6 player that does his job well, is extremely impressive. Because honestly, I feel like there's a special ability to be able to find that because anybody can see a star power, but I feel like it's more so impressive that you can see somebody who fits the pieces properly.
Sure. That's what Chevy's really good at doing. It's like looking at a puzzle and finding like all the pieces that he needs to put it together as quickly as possible, and then having spares in case he loses a piece down the line. Like, the guy just knows how to build a roster, whether or not it's a successful roster or not. He knows how to fill roles, and I always give him credit with that. He knows how to build a roster. But no, bottom 6 playing great right now. But I kind of want to ask you guys about the defense. Like, I've had my worries about them this whole season, to be honest. But because we've been winning, because we're scoring goals, it's not been the biggest concern. And Hellebuck's been fantastic this year. So having him back there as that Vezina nominee potentially has been a huge bailout at times. But tonight was a really good example of why the Jets might need to look at upgrading the defense if this season progresses and they keep winning, and if they have like Stanley Cup aspirations, if that's the way the season ends up going with the way the standings are. They got to move either Dylan or Schmidt out. Like, either all of them bring value and like different value to a team. Schmidt's great out in the locker room. He's got his offensive strengths at time, but Dylan's got the same thing. Little things that make him like a good player. But right now, it just feels like one of those guys needs to go to make this team really to the next level. I'm just wondering if you guys feel the same way. I've been on this for a while. Tonight, Schmidt sucked, and I don't know. It just feels like Dylan's been the same way the game before that. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna give my 2 cents here on everything with that whole situation with the defense. Nate Schmidt, when the Jets traded for him for a third rounder, obviously he didn't. It's a pretty whatever trade for a third rounder. I was happy with it at the time, but I was not happy with the contract. And the only thing that I could think of was, man, I really hope he lives up to that $6 million. And up until this point, he really hasn't. With that said, I do think that he shows flashes. I thought the first 5 to 10 games of the season, I thought he played really good hockey.
Same.
And the last, 18 since then, I thought he's looked super inconsistent. And I don't know if that's a partner thing or what it is, but the only guys whose names aren't the only guys that are named, Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello, I thought they've played fine, but everybody else on D, I think I don't know. I'm a little worried about it, and that's not even really going into much detail about Brendan Dillon. He looks like a lost dog sometimes out there. I don't know what he's doing, but he reminds me so much of Mark Stewart sometimes, pinching for no reason, leaving Neil
Oh, why
Pionk
did you say
dry.
that? I
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, no.
comparison that I haven't been wanting to say because it's so true, and it's the
And he
same reason. He's
and
a
he
glue
wears
man.
number
It's the same
5.
reason why he's there. Yes.
Yeah, and look, like Dylan plays great some nights, and he's a good penalty killer some nights. Tonight was not his finest night, and the last few games I've been a little bit worried about Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon. I don't love the Dillon Pionk pair as a whole. I call Pionk Captain Chaos. I think he's a good defenseman at times, but other times he makes really boneheaded decisions, and he makes unfortunate plays, like tonight with 3 minutes left in the game. Sticked Phil Kessel in the mouth, and the Jets lost on that power play. So, whatever,
Yay.
doesn't matter. But I don't know. I wonder if by the trade deadline, if they try to move out one of those guys and add something to it and bring in maybe a different piece
I
on
wish
defense.
I wish that the defense had the type of competitiveness that the offense had. Like,
Yes.
like say what you will about us having to fight for scrap, so to speak, on our bottom 6, and honestly, even our seventh spot up that has to go up because Ehlers is out with injury. But it's brought out the best in a lot of players, and I feel like when I look at that defensive core, there's a lot of complacency there. Like, there's a lot of
They've
guys
got job
who
security. It feels like.
have contracts that are over $4 or $5 million that know they are going to be playing 78 to 82 games a year because they have to. And oddly enough, this is where I would like to see them shake up a little bit sometimes too, like with getting more guys in for reps. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a huge Kyle Capobianco fan, but he hasn't done too much wrong. Like, he hasn't he hasn't done something like he's not like Derek Forbert or Tucker Pullman where you feel like he's committed a cardinal sin and needs to be blacklisted off of the defensive blue line. Like, give the guy a couple reps. Obviously, you're
I
fine with
like
giving
Capobianco, honestly. I agree with you totally, dude.
and it's annoying too because like, and then that like with Schmidt, because Schmidt plays on the right side, even though he's a left-handed shot, he's locked in every game. Every game he's on that spot because we legitimately don't have another fucking right-handed defenseman.
Yep. That's why they
Well,
use him so
sorry.
much.
Sorry. Can I just want to add one thing to that. With the Moose right now, Ville Heinola is playing on the right side, and when he came up for those couple games that he did play, he was playing on the right side. So I don't know. Like I doubt this is what it is, but I almost wonder if they are thinking about that and they are looking at maybe if this situation doesn't play out the way we want with our defensemen. Um, are we going to look at maybe moving someone, try Villy on the right side, or I don't know, something like that?
It wouldn't
I doubt
surprise
it,
me.
but if they are going to have to add something to a Nate Schmidt deal, unless it's something super weird with like 3 teams or whatever to take salary. I don't know, but it's Schmidt has 2 more years after this year, so 3-year contract at 6 million per or just under 6 million. It's not going to be easy to move
Yeah,
unless you're adding something to that.
with the salary cap only going up, what, $1 million? Gary Bettman announced today.
Yes.
If that, he said, we'll see.
Like, if that's the case, no team's willing to retain salary right now. They're going to be looking for every penny they can.
Nope.
So, like, it just made the trade market a lot harder for a lot of other teams. That affects the Canucks just as much as the Jets right now. And I really feel like the deadline this year could be slow because of that, especially if guys have term. Even if they're depth guys with, like, cheap contracts, like, it's going to be a cautionary tale of spending the next few this year, basically, in the NHL.
Well, have you?
It's going to be a problem for the Jets.
Did you hear about there was like an anonymous there was an anonymous thing that said like an anonymous GM said, yeah, we all want to make fucking trades, like in response to it's not like they're not trying, it's just the fact that there's like because they're talking about like just not to get off topic here, but like looking at like a lot of the market players that are out there, you have guys like Erik Karlsson is getting a lot of attention. Erik Karlsson, who makes $11.5 million fucking dollars. You have guys like Besser and Horvat on attention, where you don't know where the fuck you're gonna slot them in because they're so good, but they also demand so much. It's so weird because we've kind of been approaching this the last couple of years with so many exorbitant contracts, but we finally hit like that breaking point. where they're just
Well,
like,
it's not even exorbitant contracts. Unfortunately, the NHL is adopting the NBA ideology kind of with the players. Like, it's not to that extent of how much money is being dished out, but in comparison to that, when you look at what the stars are getting and all that, it's kind of affecting the way the NHL, these guys are getting paid, and the league is not willing to compromise right now with that, and it's really going to affect things for the long term for the league. Contracts are only going to go up, and Bo Horvat's a prime example of that. If Bo Horvat's really willing to walk out as the captain of Vancouver by an 8x8 because he thinks he's worth more and he knows a team, at least one or more team out there will give him that, that says a lot about where the NHL is heading.
that's so dicey. Like,
Right? Like, it really, that's the way it's
Mhm.
going. Players are going to really, fuck you, I don't care about being a captain, I'm going to chase the bag. And that's what's going to happen with more and more All-Stars. And and if Gary Bettman's going to refuse to increase it, it's going to really shake out the way trades are done. And you're not going to see any more, really.
I find it hilarious because we talk about, there was obviously a poster child for like wanting to take a team friendly deal, and then he won a Stanley Cup, and then Nathan McKinnon just said, you know what, no, fuck it, 11 and a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pay me, I've won rings. Like, and that's the
how
thing.
it goes in sports, man.
Mm-hmm.
Won once doesn't fucking matter.
NHL's always been a gentleman's club when it comes to contracts like that. It's like, oh, if you win, you stay, and you take discounts to keep winning. All that matters is winning and legacy. But players don't give a shit about that anymore because they realize how hard it is to win in a 32-team league. They want money.
Even have the best team on paper.
Exactly. Look at Tampa Bay for all the years that they failed with how good they were.
Yeah.
Like
at Florida last year.
Yeah, exactly. You never know in the NHL. So guys don't care about that anymore. Guys know their legacy is going to be good because no matter where they go, if they're elite talent, they're going to be appreciated and they're going to have a fandom that follows them around and that they're going to create new fans there. They don't care about, the 11 years spent with a franchise that was dog shit and we made the first round every year and lost. Like, they don't want that legacy anymore. They want the money.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of just tie into this conversation, I was pushing for this really hard in the offseason when the Jesse Puljujarvi rumors were going, and at the time, I think the asking was a third and maybe like a low end prospect, something like that. Now it's not going to be anything near that, right? Because Jesse Puljujarvi's gone this year. He's had kind of a rough year with Edmonton, and he's got one goal. He was talking to a Finnish reporter, and he was saying whatever about just not being confident in his NHL game. And I can't stop thinking about how good of a fit he would be just to be just the passenger on a line with Connor and Dubois, just going in there, getting fishing pucks out for them, and letting those guys tee off and have a big season.
And even too, if that doesn't work out for you, if you're talking about like a healthy Winnipeg Jets, if I saw him on a line with Morgan Barron and Adam,
yes.
Again, he provides versatility. You can put him anywhere and he'd have success.
So it's so valuable, but even with that money, I don't necessarily think they're trying to get rid of him right now because Edmonton does have some injuries, and I think they want to play their bodies. Elliot Friedman touched on that a little bit on his 32 Thoughts podcast with Jeff Merrick. And I think that Puljujarvi would be a really, really, really nice ad for the Jets for cheap. I don't think they'd have to give up too much for him, maybe like a 4 and a prospect. If that's what you're going to do, I think that's a really good under-the-radar thing. But right now, just because of like what we've said, trades are so hard to make right now. And I think a lot of teams are waiting still to see kind of where they're at before they make moves like that. Because Vancouver wants to get rid of Horvat, I'd imagine, sooner rather than later. His value's not going to get much higher.
His statement he put out today, or the team put out today?
Yeah.
It's a fiasco out here right now, man. Like, not to mention all of the stuff with Besser going on too. You've got Garland rumors popping up. You've got JT Miller ripping Oliver Ekman-Larsson in practice about how much money he makes and how he's like making terrible plays.
He said that in practice?
He was mic'd up and he said that.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's the type of culture going on right now in Vancouver. They want to win. The guys want to win, and they're not happy with these younger guys that aren't able to provide that. So, it's weird. It's interesting out here right now on the West Coast in the hockey world. I'll say that. But no, a lot of like Jack said, a lot of teams want to make moves right now, and they just can't. And I question whether or not the Jets are even going to make moves this year. They don't have a second, they don't have a fourth, and they don't have a sixth. They've got 2 fifth-round picks. Whoop-de-doo. What are you going to do with that, Chevy? But
round picks. Or later year picks. They're not budgeting.
Like, they're going to need to... I don't know. I just don't see Chevy making moves this year, honestly, guys. Like, unless
The
he's like,
only guy, and it comes back to this again. I think I mentioned this to you guys off camera, but I wonder if, unfortunately, if with picks missing, you start to look at the prospects you have to move, and I wonder if Ville Heinola would be involved in the
I
deal
think
as a big
Chevy
piece.
doesn't want to waste him. I think Chevy knows what he's got down there, and I think Bonus does too. I just don't. They, like you were saying, Jackson. What are you gonna do when you've got guys making 6 million, 5 million?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
these guys cannot move, and you have Villy ready to go. That they want to give him a real look. I don't think the Jets will trade him until they give him at least a real look in the NHL. It's just not the Jets
Hmm.
thing to do. Like not with a first round pick. Look at how long they held out with Christian Vesalainen. Like Ville Heinola
Yeah.
is not
That's true.
Ville Heinola is not Sami Niku. Like you can't
No,
you
he's
can't
not.
compare him. Like because he's not a seventh round pick or whatever. He's not like this guy's got like a lot of etiquette around his name. Like people know about him. He's a well regarded prospect, high up a lot of people's lists. They're not gonna abandon on him.
And one last thing that I want to say about Sammy Niku and the Ville Heinola thing, because this debate is so
It's
stupid.
so
The only
stupid.
thing that these guys have in common is that they're Finnish and they
Yep,
play defense.
and that they're really
They
small.
are completely different players, and yeah, fine, they're yeah, they're
It's
small too.
just so that it's
But
just for those few people that
but
need to see that said.
all Niku really was like a power play specialist defenseman with the ceiling of being a nice offensive, maybe a fifth at his absolute highest. Villy, you can see it. He's got way more hockey IQ than Niku ever really had, and I don't know. You see with the most guys dominating the league right now, and if he got a little bit longer of a leash in the NHL, a little bit longer of a road to show it, and actually got some ozone time on the power play, I think a lot of people would see that he's an NHL player. But unfortunately,
Absolutely.
right now, we've got a lot of guys underperforming, making a lot of money.
Yeah, and like I don't know, it's gonna be tough to move underperforming players. Maybe the deadline you get lucky and a team's looking to add some defensive depth, and they're willing to take on another year because if I'm not mistaken, Brendan Dillon is a unrestricted free agent after this year.
No, sorry. He's got one more year after this year.
Okay.
I got that. We were talking about that off camera, and I got him and Logan Stanley confused. That was my
Okay.
fault.
Well,
Off
even
camera.
then, one more year at 3.9 at Brendan Dillon isn't a terrible trade.
No, it's
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 not.
really not. And realistically, who like think of the Flames. If you went to Daryl Sutter and I can't remember the GM's name of the Flames right now, but if you go to those guys and you're like, hey, you know what, you like your big burly defenseman. What about a Brendan Dillon? I wonder if you could realistically do a hockey trade with Calgary and
Even
maybe I
Edmonton
don't
could
know,
be interested in looking for a tough
even
defenseman
Edmonton.
like
That
that.
would be a good
Honestly,
one. They're
there
they're
are
pretty
look.
cap strapped,
Ottawa's been
but
looking for defensemen all season long, and Pierre Dorian has been cited at multiple Jets games scouting stuff out. I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan Dillon could potentially be on the move, especially depending how the Jets are
mhm.
doing. Like if for some reason the Jets fall off with this elite hockey and they play more around 500 and like maybe a 2-3 spot or even a wild card potentially, like a good wild card team, and because of injuries or whatever, like just in case, right? I could see management willing to shuffle things around a little bit. If they
Mhm.
continue playing this way, I only see additions being made, but it's hard to say. There's like I've been saying all season long, the Jets are just continuously at a crossroad, or not even a crossroad. They're at a confusion corner basically. They can go any direction they want depending on how they do the next night. It's really all variables. It's what's injuries do we have now, where are we in the standings, and so many others because they're just no one expected them to be here right now.
So yeah, and I was just about to say that we didn't expect to be here right now, as with the Jets being so successful. If you told me they were going to be 18-9-1, I would have
I laughed.
laughed
I've
in your
laughed.
face. The roster on paper, obviously didn't look great, but then to begin the season, and then you had Nikolai Ehlers gone in 2 games to an injury, didn't play anymore after that, and the guys have just been able to step up. The coaching's been a big difference, and I think I think we talk about this every episode, but just how much it magnified how poorly Maurice and the rest of that
Absolutely.
bench ran this team. However, with all that said, I think now they've kind of got the taste in their mouth that hey, like we've got a good group here, and if we need to make an upgrade, let's try to find a way to do it. So, I wonder what the mindset is there. I really don't know if they'll trade Billy, but it's just something I've been wondering about
I've
lately,
been
just
thinking
with
it
the
too,
lack
man.
of
I feel
picks.
it's also just because it's like Villy is just so tradable. Like teams would be so interested in
Mhm.
Ville Heinola that the Jets could really manipulate themselves into getting a good return, a guy they desperately need. You know, whether or not it's the guy we want, a guy that they feel like will definitely make their team better. They could easily get that for Ville, and I feel like they want to make that move, but at the same time, you know, Chevy being the hesitant guy that he is, he knows the long term game of what Ville can bring, and it's definitely more
Mhm.
valuable than a sub right now
And
that can
and if
fill
it
that role.
if it does happen, I don't think it happens till the last 30 minutes of the trade deadline.
Same,
So
I
I'll
agree.
leave I'll leave it there because I feel like we talk about Billy every episode and everything like
It's
that. But
okay. Well, Villy's like one of our
yeah,
top prospects, honestly. You know, he's got to have to
yeah,
talk about
no,
him a bit, guys. You know, it's not even that we're just trying to dick ride over here. It's the reality situation. Jets prospect chart, depth chart. Ville Heinola is number one still. You can make the argument for Brad Lambert, but closest to the NHL, it's him. So we'll talk about him until he gets a good look or is traded because he's our number one prospect right now.
hmm Yeah, yeah, no, just I don't know. Just thinking about where this Jets team could go, I just really think that they just got to get healthy. Even guys like Mason Appleton would be a big help
Yeah,
right now, just
Appleton
to
had
have
some of
an
his
extra
best games
guy.
in the NHL, man, before the injury. That's what
Yeah,
makes
he
it.
was
That what
playing
made it so
great.
sick. Like he was great.
And you and you'll have that actual line of Adam that you wanted to start the season with Morgan Barron, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton. See what Appleton can do. I think Harkins has played fine. I'm really impressed with how he's kind of elevated his game since from last year. I think he looks a lot more. I don't know. He just looks a lot quicker. He's more decisive this year.
He looks
But
like an NHL player now. He doesn't look
you
like
know,
an
I know,
NHL player.
and
He looks like an NHL guy. It's so funny to
mhm.
me.
No, and I'm happy for him because he's a guy that God, he works so hard and he just wasn't really accomplishing anything. And this year he's shown he belongs. So I'm happy
Yeah,
for Jansen.
exactly.
Yeah, but hopefully Ehlers is back before too long. I'm kind of holding out hope now because of that interview. I'm not expecting him back for probably till at least after the Christmas break.
Yeah,
But
I was about to say that. I'm like, that's probably why he said that. He's probably gonna start skating on Christmas break. He'll hit the rink or something like that. And be
yeah.
back probably
hmm
mid-January. That's on a,
Yeah, but if the Jets get him back, I think they're looking pretty good. Hopefully, the injury bug can stay away, and hopefully nobody is sick
Do you
this
know any
week. Next
information
week
on
we
Mason Appleton by any chance? I haven't heard any updates. I'm just wondering. You seem Mr. Plugged in over here. Before
no
we go.
updates. He's been out for roughly about a month and a half, so he's got about probably 4 to 6 weeks left on the
Okay.
shelf.
So almost like the
Because he's
same timeline as Ehlers then.
pretty much, yeah, they'll be coming around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, but with all that said, I feel like I'm talking in circles here, but tough loss, back-to-back losses. You got the Nashville Predators coming up on Thursday, and our next game then is Sunday,
Saturday against the Canucks, and I'll be there.
Saturday against the Canucks. So two lowly teams in the NHL. How do you think the Jets bounce back here? Do you think we win these games, or do you think we go on a bit of a slide here?
I think the Jets have a chance right now to go back to back on the wins. Well, I think they could. It'd be a very Jets thing based on this season to drop the way they've played, you know, especially after a loss like tonight, and then come back and then play simple, effective hockey with the way they've been doing successfully. And the Canucks, I don't know. I feel like the Canucks are just a team historically that up until like last year, they've always had a really good track record with. So especially in Vancouver.
Mhm.
So we'll see.
I feel that it's going to be I feel that we're going to beat the Predators because for some reason the Predators brings out our competitive spirit almost every time. Yeah. You could argue that about Vegas too, and that didn't show up this year, but respectively not Vegas. I think Vancouver, something goofy happens. I got a weird vibe going about that game in Vancouver.
Ooh, I wonder if there could be some bad blood. I just remember that last game in Vancouver last year is when Wheeler went down bad with that injury.
Yeah. I'm thinking that this is like a shootout loss. I got a weird vibe coming off Vancouver. Because here's the thing, no.
Well, I gotta see
because
shootout loss when I'm gonna be there, bro. I got one Jets game a year out here if I'm lucky. Now it's gonna be a shootout loss.
They're just living in a chaotic storm, and then all of a sudden the Jets come in, and then they all pull together and just beat them for no reason. And then the rest of the thing just goes, it stays chaotic. It's just that one little point where they're like, "Yeah, but we played there." That's typical Winnipeg Jets hockey right there.
Just with the track record of how the teams done so far to this point. I do think they're going to come out firing against Nashville, and I think they're going to win that game. Now I'm not too impressed with Nashville this year. I think a lot of guys have come back down to earth, like Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson. They're not playing at the heights that they were last season, and yeah, that's just my thoughts there. But yeah, the Saturday game is where it freaks me out a little bit with Vancouver, because we've seen Vancouver win 7-6, and we've seen Vancouver lose 7-1. So they're kind of all over the board this season, and obviously there's a lot of turmoil, as Jake said earlier, with that team. And teams, I don't know, they're funny, and a lot's gonna happen there. But we'll see what Vancouver does. Before we wrap it up here, is there anything that you guys want to add or talk about before we shut her down?
Honestly, man, I think I'm good. I've said my piece today.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah, with a yawn.
All right. Well, yeah, with that said, guys, I think we're going to leave her there. Thank you so much for watching the Prairie Puck podcast. We're missing Carter today. I don't think any of us mentioned that except for the little pop-in that he had earlier. So, yeah, thanks so much for watching. Go check out everybody down below in the description. Everybody's channel links will be there. Go check out Jake on Peg City Hockey and Zach with the Nolan Hockey Podcast. And yeah, with all that said, guys, have a great night, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Stuck the landing on that.